beautiful brothers and sisters who are watching this interview right now. I am pleased to introduce you all to an expert in light. We're going to crack open an incredible subject about the substrata of reality, substrata of our DNA, the line where science and quantum physics are meeting in understanding holographic reality, quantum time pulse, simultaneous um, bilocation, and various other mind-blowing quantum physics conclusions that point to the universe being a projection of light. So, and we hear all these things in our world about light workers and people who um, are fighting the war between light and dark, and uh, where everyone has, the yin yang, and there's this element of light and darkness, and there's been some incredible, mind-blowing, fascinating studies about shadows coming from biogeometry and Dr. Ibrahim Karim in Cairo, about even shadows contain light, and the there are penetrating carrier waves within the spectrum of light, like the carrier wave of vertical negative green, or negative green or gray light. So it has a vertical and horizontal wavelength that can be detected behind something that a light is projecting through. So we have the shadow. I have it on my hand, and the visible light spectrum stops here, but there's penetrating rays like X-rays, right? Certain other rays outside the visible light, and there's different degrees of carrier waves, and so in each photon of light, you have this dimension of qualities that's coming associated with consciousness. So to go into this subject, we are gonna hear from someone whose entire healing modality and channel to the divine is illumination. And we're gonna go into the more esoteric subjects. Laura, would you like to have me say less and give a little introduction of yourself and what the audience has here to look forward to?
Sure. So I'm Jackie Lara Herod, the Tigress of the Light, and I am a light language and light code linguist. So what this means is I channel the divine, I channel consciousness in multiple forms, in multiple dialects, in multiple ways, um, more specifically relating to light language and light codes. So light language and light codes are symbols and sounds, vibrations that are describing or carrying information, either a healing nature or information like having a discussion right now information. And light language typically is more sound or movement based. So you might see people signing the energy with their hands. All this is you're bringing in energy and you're being that conveyor of that energy so that the people can receive the information, whether it's healing or actual information, or it can be spoken. And this is where we get into using different sounds, and it's bypassing our thinking brain, it's bypassing the logical brain and moving directly into the feeling bodies and the spiritual bodies. So the beautiful thing about spoken light language is that it's transcending all of our human limitations. It works beyond all of that and touches us in our ultimate unified self. So the part of ourself that's our soul, that's our higher self, that's the energetic aspects that go on for eternity. So light language is a beautiful way to bring in high frequency information and to also shift energies within and around the body. And then light codes are the compacted version of light language and are often seen as symbols. And I have an example of one right here for you. So like this is a symbol for basically it's like universal love, love of the highest order. And so you have this code, and it is what it is. It has a light language name, Pahma, but you could also channel for hours, days to like actually to infinity on what this code represents. So that's the beauty of working with the codes is that they really continue to open up because they are literally a definition of infinity on a topic.
Yeah, there's so many incredible just the signs in that card, the three vertical lines, the penetrating wave, like just the it's a blast of light, and there's these three horizontal planes, and in the science, and I'm not a teacher of biogeometry, but a student of it in the science of biogeometry. Those are all symbols of literal light.
Hmm.
And so, did you create this card deck?
Yes,
Or
I did. Yeah. So this card, that symbol is found in my first book, The Little Book of Light Codes, which was released in 2019, and we made the card deck so that you could do more with the codes more easily. So the book was originally just like there's the symbol, read a little bit about the symbol, meditate on the symbol, and then move on with your day. But also, it was suggested that we work with the codes for a week at a time to really observe ourselves in our environment as we're working with these new energies or with the same energies in different ways. So what we found was it was really neat to be able to have this sort of tangible card that we could charge a crystal, we could charge our water. Like this is incredibly powerful. You can do
Mhm.
that, or you can do underneath. I've recently gotten into succussions and charging the water that way.
What's a succussion?
So it's how you can make homeopathy. So succussion is when you're gently tapping. So like we're using the code, but we could use a word for it could literally be a
A way of
word.
impressing against water, basically.
Yes. And so you have to know how many times to hit to tap the water. The more you tap it, the stronger it is. Like in traditional homeopathy, if you have 30 cc's, that's like 30 taps. If you have 120, well, that's 120 taps. And so that's significantly stronger. 120 is stronger than 30.
Hmm.
So how I have determined how many succussions to do for myself is muscle testing.
I see. So you literally are tapping the water with a numerical frequency. You're
Yes.
doing it a certain amount of times. Amazing.
Hmm.
Absolutely. It's so funny because I don't know if you know the science of radiesthesia where they apply number like that. You're doing it through muscle testing, and there is a science which has tested, and this is mind-blowing stuff here, where certain numbers also equate to certain organs. So what they found is they were researching the effect of, and this is considered like pseudoscience in the West. So for all of you who are going to try to troll on talking about biogeometry, forget about it because I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about actual soul human science, which is the ancient temple sciences. And so they do like a torsion test with a pendulum. There's an instrument. I'm actually wearing one right now. And you basically, I can show you what it looks like. And these are highly calibrated. They're designed through shape information, and that's why card is so special because it's containing these sacred shapes, right? So
Hmm.
this is a an instrument of radiesthesia. Gotta take it down out of the turban here for everyone to get a whiff. But these are two different instruments, and they are used to basically at read torsion. So they're connected through shape information. This one has the planes of nature that the Theosophical Society associated with the seven planes of nature, and this one has 16 horizontal discs on it. And there's a whole science between why these shapes and what they do. But what they do is they read the numbers of the effect of a number cluster in either a design principle or some principle on all the biological functions of each organ. So if an organ's torsion is reversing, they can literally put like dots on a paper or a piece of tape, and they'll pop a piece of tape on the person's organ and they'll put one dot, and then the pendulum will be, and this is obviously me doing it, showing you, not like, and then at some point there'll be like two dots, three dots, four dots, five dots, and you can literally have a pen on a paper. At some point, the pendulum will start to go in the way of health. It's like, okay, you've got to seven. That means,
Mm.
and then I mean, I've literally done this for my kids, and they instantly feel better, and they're like, Dad, do the dots on me. I need dots. So if there's something ever wrong, and I literally, I'm like, what's wrong? And I connect to it through the torsion field. This is how radiesthesia works. It's the body's antenna to the energy field of whatever it is. And when it comes to light, there's emissions coming out of us. There's literally, this is all working through light science. So ultimately, yeah, that's amazing. I've never heard of someone tapping the bottle though. That's so smart, because you're gonna infuse the water with a quality of number. And if you need a 15 or a 30, and if your liver needs like 9, there's numbers, and the science has literally discovered that there's numbers that appear with people over and over. Certain like organs get harmonized by like a 7, or kidneys are a certain number. And I would love to see that amazing testing on that and happening in the
Yeah.
next few years here.
Yeah, it's amazing too. Like that's fascinating. I love that. I've charged my water many times, obviously with different codes, and I've had the water like the vibration of the water has made me high, and at other times you can taste it tastes different. Like the water actually changes flavor.
Make me get this out right now. I just got it right now. I heard it while you're doing it. Do 8 taps and take a sip and see how you like it. So as you're talking about it, I'm like getting a little jealous. I'm like, I want to taste the taps.
Yeah.
This you called it.
Well, and it's even better when you put a code with it.
Oh, it's. I'm drop it in right now.
Yeah, there you go. There you
Yes, thank
go.
you for the reference. So how many decks are in, or how many cards on your deck? And can you tell us the process of how are these channeled symbols? Did they come from a lineage? Did you have an experience with the divine that showed you the geometrical information? Do you want to share a little bit about
Sure.
your channel to get that?
Sure. So I did have an incredible experience. However, before I get into that, I'll just share that as a child, I did speak light language, and I did suppress it in my teenage years and forgot about it. Although I did still retain a connection with spirit, I could see energies and things like that. And then I used to ride horses, and I was a competitive show jumper, and I had a nasty fall from that. And in the course of my recovery, I discovered energy healing and I decided I wanted to become an energy healer. So I started down that whole path. And one night, I had a very, very vivid dream. And this is around the time where I'm starting to wake up around 3 a.m. Spirit's waking me up. I'm starting to see beings in my room and getting the paralysis. You wake up and you can't move, and all of that is starting to happen. And but in this one particular day, I had a very vivid dream, and it was a fascinating dream because it was like I was watching a movie, and then the movie ended, and I knew the movie ended, and then the movie started playing again, except I was in the movie this time. And I'm like, wait, we just did this, except here I am in the movie. And I guess that confusion must have woken me up. And in the darkness of my room, I was totally buzzing. There was so much energy. I was buzzing. But in the darkness of my room, because it's 3 o'clock in the morning, I saw five symbols floating in the darkness of my room, all illuminated in this brilliant silver white color. And immediately, of course, I went, wow, that's amazing. And I grabbed my journal that's right next to my bed and I drew the symbols in the darkness because I knew I didn't want to forget them. And as I finished drawing those, um, I was introduced, energetically introduced to my new head guide. And then he was telling me all kinds of stuff. So I was just channeling like crazy. And then all of a sudden, okay, the transmission sort of ended, things started to calm down. I went to sleep. I woke up a few hours later thinking, did that really happen? And grabbed my journal, and sure enough, it's all there. And then I went to a yoga class later that day. And in the yoga class, I started seeing symbols in my mind's eye. They weren't outside of me now, they were in my mind's eye now.
Mm.
And I asked Spirit, I said, whoa, I really want to remember these. Can you please help me to remember them so I can get home and draw them? Because I'm in a yoga class and I have, my journal. So I got home and I remembered them, which I also thought was a miracle.
Wow.
And from that day forward, I've been able to channel these codes. So what would happen is I'm an aspiring energy healer, and I'd go to my local cafe, and every time someone always come sit next to me. I'd sat at this bar. It was like a juice bar. And I would go literally every day. And every day someone would new sit next to me and they'd start spilling their life story and what they're suffering with right now. And of course, I want to help them. And instead of running like Reiki or hands-on healing of some other sort, I would see this code come into my mind's eye and I'd say to them, I see this code that might help your situation. Do you want me to draw it for you? And every single time without fail, they'd get very excited. Yes, yes, I'd love that. Thank you. Like it was totally normal. Like, so would draw the
Like,
code.
give me the secret key.
Yeah. I drew the code like on a scrap piece of paper, like whatever the cafe could throw me, took a picture with my phone, gave them the original, and then I'd go home and I would draw the code in this little book. I started keeping a collection of them and did this for months, never understanding or knowing what these things were. No, Spirit never told me what they were. They were just like, "Hey, here you go." And they would have a little funny sounding name and a short definition, and that was it. So now every metaphysical shop I went to, every um, spiritual fair I would go to, I'd carry this little book with me. And actually, I have it if you want to see the
Of
original,
course.
original,
Brace your eyes all.
which is in this beautiful handmade leather, handmade paper
Wow.
thing.
Amazing.
So this is, whoops, flip pages. Oh, it's gonna, they're not, I didn't write on every single page because the ink bled through, but
Yeah.
these are the original codes that you will
Wow.
find in the little book of light codes.
Amazing. Whoa.
So,
Everything.
yeah, so I carried this book with me and no one could tell me what the codes were. And then finally, this little shop in the middle of nowhere said, "Oh, those look like light codes." Well, now I had something to Google. This is like 2018. I think I started channeling these in 2015 or 2016 or something like that. And so I had something to Google, but honestly, in 2018, there was nothing online about light codes or very little. So it didn't help me very much. And it finally occurred to me since, I'm doing so much channeling, and I mean a lot of channeling. I'd sit down with spirit and have whole conversations, so much information coming through. It finally occurred to me to ask, what are these things? Took me 3 years to ask spirit. So I finally did, and then they started giving me drips of
You were an
information.
initiation, that's why.
Oh man, it was a long time.
They were wanting you to just stay in channeling them and making more and more and opening your sight and your connection with the light?
Mm. It was a very intense time, a lot of deep, deep healing, and I was very committed. I wasn't afraid to tackle the shadows. Like whatever came up, I was full on. And anyway, so we finally started getting some information on it, and my understanding of light codes and light language has evolved dramatically, leaps and bounds with my experience with them and their how profound they are. It was so easy for me to channel these codes, and later I started speaking light language again in 2019. Once I started speaking light language, it was easier for me to speak light language than to speak English. And so I actually undervalued it for quite a long time. Because when something comes so easily to you, you think, oh, well, no big deal. And I'd have all these people come up to me and say, how do you channel this? How I want to speak light language. And I'm like, just do it. Like, get out of your own way and do it. I didn't have an understanding of how challenging it really was for people and and how easy it was for me. So yeah, and then now I feel like I have a deeper understanding of the whole picture and what's really going on. And I've had more experiences because my interest is actualizing the holographic fractal avatar light being in accordance with the eternal heart, the love that we are, that is in the multiverse and not trapped in this universe. And I've received all these downloads about the multiverse and the holographic fractal avatar and the role that light codes and light language play in that, but also that we live in a fractal universe. And so everything that we're looking at, everybody has their own reality. Everyone has their own different perspectives, and they're all unique parts to this fractal. And the light codes get to work with all of that, and yet they're still part of the fractal nature as well. That's a
Yeah.
lot to chew on.
No, it's actually it's so this is where we take a moment to explain for people who don't understand what's happening, which is seeing a light in the dark. Okay, you're in the dark room, the lights are off, and there is a light literally in it seems like air, but it's actually ether and plasma. That's what we're talking about here. This is a very important critical subject. And no, this is the place everyone is trying to keep their eyes open to see, that we all have to get to see. This is the place where every meditation, every yoga, everything we're trying to do in terms of opening ourselves up to understanding and seeing the light of God has to do with being able to see this light in the dark that Laura is talking about right now. So people are like, "What? What do you mean you saw a light? Like it's a literal light, like a point, and it's drawing." And this is an actual incredible phenomenon. Like to go the depth of to be able to see that actually with your eyes open. You're not dreaming. It's not in your mind. It's not a hallucination. Okay, you're awake in the dark, and your eyes are open,
Mhm.
and you're getting boop boop, zoop zoop, and it's moving. There's two things I want to say about this, like uh, that are totally this subject, but in science and biogeometry. And just as you're talking, I'm like, whoa, whoa, this is light codes are biogeometry light codes. I want to grab that book real quick. Can I show you? I want to,
Yeah.
I want to pull some science of Dr. Ibrahim Karim, international, multiple PhD, architect, physicist, researcher, Egyptologist, professor, who oversees incredible, mind blowing research and mystic master. How many more? But he's also researched light codes, and I'm going to show you some things, and then tie in what you're saying to just like speak into the subject of the code. Just give me 1 second here.
Wow.
So, and this leads me to the next question: is so the cover,
Hmm.
and these are codes associated with organ systems. See, this is like leads me to my next question. Like first, to
Those
just
are
get
Arcturian.
they're Arcturian, you said? Not sure what that is, but these are basically were discovered and traced. They're Arcturian because we are Arcturian, or whatever nature linked with us that's Arcturian is in here. From I don't really know. I'm not an expert, but what I do know is these were discovered in the human body. So for everyone watching this to understand what light is, how it interacts with us, light literally hits us. Right now I'm behind the beam of this LED, but when I'm in the natural sunlight, and there's the full uh, vibrational spectrum of light. Light enters you. It gets some light gets absorbed, like infrared light and ultraviolet light, and then there's the penetrating layer. So there's rays that penetrate, and the visible light spectrum that bounces off of our body and reflects out and is seen by us. Uh, there's instruments like lecture antennas and different scientific devices to measure these frequencies, and there's also ancient temple sciences that could measure these colors, and the colors literally go in. Green goes on this line, red goes on this line, orange goes on this line. The light breaks up from being in the spectrum, and it literally enters our body, interacts. And this is the Chinese meridians. You have these colored lines, which has actually been verified by science to be the distribution of visible light spectrum in the prism in the human biofield. So green light goes to your liver. And what this doctor discovered is he took shape samples of these organs, all the organs of the body and the body itself, and he traced meticulously the way that the green light enters goes like one for the liver, but this is like a thyroid right here. So light literally enters the thyroid here. The ray of light goes like this. Zoop, 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 zoop. And if you were to test this shape, it would have a color of it. I don't know what the color is. I haven't tested the shape, but each one of these shapes has a color resonance.
And the
So
sound.
ultimately, yes, a sound. Exactly. And that's the language portion. And so the next question I was going to ask is when you saw these shapes, did they start in a certain place and end in a certain place, or were they all whole, or were they being drawn out? Because for this science works that there's a science called memory of a line, and it means that lines resonate with different frequencies at the beginning and at the end. Light literally
Yes.
emits out of lines. So yes,
Yeah, maybe you'll be familiar with Reiki.
yeah,
You've taken Reiki, and you know how they get you to draw the symbols in a certain way?
yes.
So Reiki symbols are light codes, of course, right? So the codes that I'm drawing, channeling, okay, when they first showed up for me, it was just like they're floating in the room. I don't know how they got there. They just were there. And now when I draw a code, yeah, it's definitely they I'm shown part of it, so I know where to start, and then it's as if it builds itself. So what I've discovered in part, because there are codes that are ancient. So like I've heard so many times people will see the codes, especially in the first book, and they'll say, "Oh my gosh, I know that from somewhere." And it's because, yeah, you've lived multiple thousands of lifetimes and whatever, and you're an energy being, and this is energy, and it's been around as long as you have. Like, so
Part of our sport is part of our soul information.
totally. And then I've been told that there are codes that I'm co-creating because let's not forget, consciousness is in a perpetual state of creation. So we have to keep evolving. And so there are codes coming through now that are part of that as well.
And I wanted to add that is part that was the other thing I forgot. That's another part of the science that the dog. So these are actually scientifically founded. These are in nature. These specific shapes and the way they start and how they move through, these are actually in nature, right? But then there's ones you see which are not anywhere else. They can appear into your mind and you get them mapped. And in this science of biogeometry, what you're seeing is called a personal diagram,
Mm.
or he calls it a personal diagram. He says it doesn't necessarily always work in every situation, but it can work at a time, and it can do everything that anything else can at a time. and also at other times for other people it might not necessarily work. So it's not like a universally applicable thing. And
Yeah, well, because, you know, we also have to be in a state of receptivity and it has to be the right divine timing. So we can, like, let's say we're experiencing an illness, and, most people, if we're not feeling well, would rather be out of that state as quickly as possible. So we do a lot, we do as much as we can to help get ourselves out of that state. But if it's a state that we need to keep learning from, we're not going to move out of that state. There's a lesson that has to be learned before we can move out of that state, or something has to fall into place. There's a timing issue where this needs to heal first, and we might be trying to heal the wrong thing. So this problem over here can't heal until this problem heals, but we might not even know what this thing is. So there's, yeah, it's
that
complicated.
bringing me back to the subject of the line starts in a certain direction and ends in a certain direction. There's like
Mhm.
an order to the development of it. And it's sort of like when you're trying to unplug something else that's plugged up over here, like you have to,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, there's a science in the far, far east, right? Like sacred forms and light. Light is and angles. Light and angles have qualitative relationships. So
Mhm.
certain colors have certain proportions that are associated with their vibrational frequencies. And there's in biogeometry what's called the science of quality, and it's the associations with the the angles, the proportions, the wavelengths to the actual physical color, like appearance to us, to its effect in our brain and our mental level. Like so there's a biological interaction with it. And one of the researchers on this summit did her master's degree in she did theoretical research on the effects of design and architecture and colors and interior design on the human biofield, and which she then followed and went to her PhD to get scientific data to back and support. And that's another amazing talk. Dr.
Mhm.
Jihan Nagy, for those of you who are hanging in this vibe, which if you are, this is amazing. If you're here and you're like something, there is something like yes, check out Dr. Nagy's talk on. And she was mentored by Dr. Ibrahim Karim in her PhD studies. Um, but the importance of being able to have that two-way communication with the divine, where the original archetypal shapes, right? And Dr. Gehan also researched these shapes. Like I noticed your card, there's a hexagon, there's a hexagram. She researched the first five shapes up to a hexagon, six shapes, to the effect of healing rats who have been injected with cancer and depressed rats. And the hexagonal shape is the most supportive shape of all the shapes to create an architectural space on
Mhm.
a living life force. And so, of course, the card you're holding up, that's the first thing I noticed. I was like, oh, it's got the hexagon. Because during her talk, there was a bee here. And during your talk just now, I don't know if you saw that, but there was a bee in here as well. But yeah, the sacred geometrical intelligences are structured at certain angles, but when you're breaking out of that, it's just like singing a scale versus being able to freely express yourself and make a song. So when you have these circular spiral like
Mhm.
glyphs, that's taking the art that's the step up from archetypal intelligence to this is a unique individual soul of the universe. This is like a quirk personality, right? There's archetypal intelligences which are like basic shapes, right? It's like seeing a line or star or circle or a pentagon or square or triangle versus seeing the type of diagrams that you showed us in your book, which are these like round, like that. Exactly.
This one's coming. Oh, where do we? Oh, there we go.
Yep. It looks like combination between a few things. I see immediately a few different things. I see like a jellyfish. I see a comet, like an asteroid flying through the sky. I see a sun exploding a ray of like um, emissions out of it. I see a the back of a bird turning and flying into the sky, or the back of a peacock with his head turned away from me. He's turning away really fast. Like, it's like immediately, like so many intelligences and informations are coming through out of that.
So this code is representing releasing the distortions in the mind. So this will help with releasing the programs and the entanglements and energies that on the mental plane.
I just realized that when people are watching this, they're just gonna see me leaning in and pointing at the card. They're not gonna see the card while I'm describing all those versions, but you guys can now play those back and see that she's holding it up.
There's a little bit of flower of life in there too.
See that? Looks like a lotus unfolding, or and also cell meiosis.
Mm,
Like looks like that picture of a cell cluster after a human is born or
yeah,
conceived. I mean,
yeah, yeah. So
yeah, to be able to see that with your eyes open means that you're really able to bear and hold the light.
here's for the Kundalini.
And I like that the card's black and the thing is light because it really looks like a light in the dark.
That's what I was going for.
Oh, I see that little hexagon right at the bottom center. Wow. And the bidirectional wave in the middle, which looks like the double helix DNA. Yeah, that center spine shape has also been associated with time pulse, like the CERN
Mm,
particle
wow.
accelerator research came out, and they researched that the shape of a bidirectional wave or figure eight is somehow resistant to like some sort of electromagnetic disturbances. I'm not an expert in these things, but I just know that the general discovery was that this figure eight, which is a flexible shape that Meta has, like Facebook took that logo, right? And eight, and that shape is a very harmonizing shape for reality.
Yeah. Infinity. I think it helps us get into that expansive state also. I think that's
Absolutely.
why it's hard. That's why it's harmonizing, right? Because it's helping us get into the expansive state and get out of the restriction of limitations.
Yeah, well, we talk about shape energy or shape resonance of shape information and shape caused waves. Um, the because the subject of life force is directly related with time because and this is all again work of the master in biogeometry who studied the light, the physics of light, basically, and how we experience life, how we experience over time is what our life force is. So if we're really happy and we're really energetic, that's like a lot of life force, right? You're handling life, having vigor over time. If it's suffering, if you're struggling, you're having a life force issue. So he's describing life force in the book and the scientific basis behind life force, and explaining that to understand life force, you have to understand time pulse and how we move forward through time, because um, our degree of experiencing time is related to our life force, proportional to it. So, anyways, point being is in regards to shape. information is in the quantum research about time, scalar waves and time pulse. Basically, there's this new discovery of time stack reality and things existing simultaneously over time. And there's um, Einstein's discovery about the speed of light and how it affects the you can go backwards through time by going faster than the speed of light equals mc squared. And so to understand time or light, you have to realize that light is a barrier between time and space and time. Light is like a line. There's a realm faster than it, and there's a realm slower than it. And the realm slower than it is known as the Hertzian realm. And the realm faster than it is known as the realm of light speed, or faster than the speed of light. And that's the mental and emotional realm that's been discovered in research. And so, in the geometrical diagram of so both things are happening simultaneously, you have the figure eight, which is that where that shape comes. And so, anyways, there's if you were very lucky to be in a special topics class with Dr. Ibrahim Karim this last September, he released what he called the time pendulum, which and gave a talk on the quantum time pulse and how to harmonize time disturbances. So he found out that in certain places where there was some issue that happened in time or something that caused a trauma or just a disharmony in time, it can even not be a trauma, but that there you can use that shape, the actual shape information of that to balance the space or the organ or the
Hmm.
place and time based off how creative you use. You can literally use a figure eight or a double bidirectional wave, throw that into the space, or have an actual diagram of it, like the Vajra in India. I'm sure you have a Vajra sitting around you somewhere. It's like the two pronged Buddhist instrument they hold in their hand, um, shaped kind of like a figure eight. And yeah, that shape is also somehow associated with the throat too. I think it's like linked with the light frequency of how light travels in the throat. It makes this sort of shape in that way.
Wow, that is really interesting. I'm thinking about how um, you could use that in, yeah, in shadow work and in ancestral work and yeah, literally going back to trauma and working the energy of that trauma with that shape. I can totally get how you could do that.
Yeah,
And
and
it
he
feels good. It feels good, the
yeah,
balancing of it.
it should be
Yeah.
clockwise. I've read for that. There was a research done. Like if you do that shape in a
Yeah, it
direction,
feels like. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Which goes back to the subject of does it start at a place and go in a certain order? Oh, that's what we were talking about before we started, which is the flow of the light body. Because most people don't realize that light is a movement. There's a compression wave associated with it. It's literally traveling through space. And that's why we're seeing colors, as we're literally in this oceanic pulsing of these vibes that, again, when you go behind a wall and you're creating a shadow, certain percentages of them bounce. That object catches another percentage of those waves. Then there's these other invisible carrier waves that bust through the physical thing, and they're known as penetrating waves. And in spirituality, the research on spirituality that Dr. Ibrahim Karim has done has basically tested like the tombs and crypts of certain saints, as well as certain architectural designs and angles which are present in geometrical archetypes. And there's like waves that emit off of them. So this is something called a shape caused wave, which is not something you really hear about in the Western American school systems, but it's from French and German research, which was taking into the account of the invisible frequencies emitting off of certain shapes, which lends itself into the conversation of ancient architecture, which is how this science became developed, how they entered into the research of shapes. And they were architects. They were discovering why they were building these temples in certain ways to emit. certain frequencies. And really, the Earth is radiating with these lights. We are in a universe of these incredible bubbling lights that are. This is when you go down to our DNA, and our most central core of our DNA is um, phonics and photonics. It's 90% of our DNA or something like that is like pulsing light and sound. And
Mhm.
then we come into this veil of this world, this polar world where this shadow exists, and we have to train ourselves to be open to seeing that. And I don't know if you ever do this or you like sort of like leave your eyes open when you meditate. Have you ever heard of that?
Hmm. Yeah, and you can like go into a whole other, I don't know, experience somehow. Like you see things. Like I did a meditation once where I went into the wood. So like I was in a room that was all wood paneling and there was a knot in the wood and I went into the knot and then there was this great expansiveness from doing that and I got into such an expanded state that when I looked down, my whole arm was glowing yellow. And then I kept looking at it, and then I could see all the veins and the bones. And I kept looking at it, and it disappeared.
Wow.
I only got it once, though. I haven't got back to that state again.
Yeah, and for those of you who are hanging with us to this point, you're on and you're able to understand and comprehend that we're talking about a real realm of reality here. In the Far East, there's a name for it. There's multiple definitions of this word, but one of the more mystical, not wider understood definitions of darshan is in the far east they call it divine sight. And you might, if you do a bunch of yoga and you know how to go through your asanas and you know the general yogic terms, you hear your asana, which is your posture, and then they say put your drishti, and drishti is your inner sight, and the word drishti and darshan are, they share a common root in Sanskrit, which is about having to do with sight. And divine sight, what it really means is being able to see light. That's what it really means on a fundamental level. And that means in the dark.
Yeah.
That
And if we expand on that too, that's inclusive of when we're in a depressed state. If we're having a tough day, to be able to see the silver lining, to be able to see that the universe, even though you're having a rough day and things are not going the way you would like them to go, there's always a reason for it, and the universe is working for you, not against you. Always, which is a really, really, really tough thing to come to terms with, honestly, because there's so much pain and suffering that we experience as humans. And yet, in the greater, greater, greater picture, in the really big picture, if you remove your thoughts and feelings, if you remove your reactions, if you remove your judgments over the situation, there is a reason and it might not be suitable, like suited to your maybe what you would ideally like right now in this life or something, but in the greater picture of our evolution, the humanity's evolution, for the greater consciousness evolution, these things have to play out, and it's energies that are playing out. And the trouble that we have is that we tend to attach onto things and create all these connections and reasonings and judgments. Honestly, it's judgments. We're programmed to judge all these programs, all these different programs that are playing out that really are fueling our challenge with finding peace with the way the energies all flow.
I thank you so much for bringing it up because we need to bring this light conversation into the subject of the solution and what and how can we awaken people to see the light. And if you're out there and you're like, well, what's the point of this conversation? You guys sound crazy. You're talking about seeing light in the dark. How do you start to see light in the dark? There's a
Did you
way,
ever see Harry Potter?
of course. And I read all the books.
So when Dumbledore says something like, he gives Harry the, is it called the illuminator? Is that what
Oh,
it
yeah,
is?
yeah.
Flip
It's
it,
that's the street
and
light.
it throws the light, and
Yeah,
it
yeah.
so you can see. So there's
Oh.
always light found in the dark. I mean, I can't remember the exact quote. That's not the exact quote, but it's essentially that.
Hmm. And it's also the power of throwing light.
Hmm.
People have popularized the phrase throwing shade, and it's the opposite.
Yeah.
And the truth is, there is a wisdom to knowing and taking accountability for the types of thoughts and energy you're creating. And one of the beautiful things is, and this is what I'm trying to get to, if you want to start seeing it, you have to ask. You have to ask God to see the light, basically. If you
Oh,
want, yeah,
every day, multiple times a day.
it takes a lot of
Like,
asking.
honestly, like I have a ceremony usually once a day, where I end up lighting a candle and I say some, like, you can call them prayers, you can call them intentions, whatever I mean, it's just language. Like, if you have any, like, struggle around some languaging, just know that we're just trying to communicate some ideas. And these are all ideas, and it's how each person resonates to those ideas that matters. And remember, each one of us is creating our own reality. But we have to, what I do is I light a candle and I say something like, "Thank you, Great Spirit." I always start with thank you. I always start with gratitude for whatever's gone on today, the healing, the energy, the interactions, the people, whatever it is. And then I move into something like requests for, please, I continue to choose clarity. I continue to choose deeper levels of understanding. I continue to choose deeper alignments with my love, with my eternal heart in the love of the light. I continue to choose. So these are requests, but it's also that you're setting your mind straight, you're setting your being straight. Because even if you've had a tricky day and you've been pulled off center, you've been triggered, you've been upset, you've been cut off in traffic, whatever it is, you can come back at the end of the day, and we do this like before our meal, like our dinner or something like this. And you can kind of set yourself straight. No, no, this is where I want to be. This is where I want to be. And then if you need help with something, then ask for it. If you need healing for something, then ask for it. If you don't understand how you're supposed to navigate a situation, ask for the guidance, ask for the solutions. Because the way the universe works is, ask and you shall receive. If you don't ask, then you might not receive. And that's also taking responsibility that you are a divine being of the light and you can have command over your being. like, like you not only can, but you do and you should, and it's there for you, but we're not taught that. And we're taught to be afraid, and we're taught to be cautious, and we're taught to give our power to people of authority. Claim it all back. And it doesn't mean that you're putting anybody down. It doesn't mean that anybody's a bad person. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person, that you gave your power away. None of that matters. What matters is you coming into the moment, setting yourself straight over and over and over again, and continuing to walk whatever path you're drawn to walk. Hopefully,
Beautiful.
as guided by your heart, like ideally. Yeah.
Yeah, I know you have to follow your heart because part of the way we show gratitude for the divine is by following our passions.
Yes.
And,
That's
and
how our soul speaks. Our soul speaks to us through our interests and our passions, and it's what feeds our soul. People talk about feeding your soul. You feed your soul by finding beauty and by finding interest and passion.
yeah, I would definitely say to anyone who's interested in seeing real light, not talking about the Maya of the holographic illusion, the real intelligent beyond language that has been talking. We didn't even get an example yet of like you're speaking of light language. I don't know if you want to
Yeah.
share that. You're open to if
I
you want.
sure can if
Uh,
you'd like it.
but to but to say, if you're wanting to do that, you have to ask all the time. You have to be complete. This is you have to get straight with yourself. It doesn't mean you have to hide or lie or deny or disconnect with any part of yourself, but you have to
Nope.
live. Yeah, you have to completely face and take in your entire energy because you are also a source of light. And this is the new sciences are coming up to show that humans are light beings, and there's a literal pathway of light. We have our morphogenic field and our auric bodies and our etheric bodies and all that stuff, which is now being um, talked about by researchers. And
That's been known for generations upon generations. Like it's nothing new. Science is just finally starting to figure something out.
yeah, exactly. If you want to see that light and actually be able to see the true colors, see the true nature, and have communication where you can channel your own personal diagrams, where you can see the sacred geometrical intelligences easily, like stars are in your mind. You can literally see the stars, see straight through the earth, and look at the dazzling stars on the other side. And it's what we are being called to do, who are all working in the higher um, authorities. Is
And you don't have to astral project to do it.
correct.
You just have to be in that expansive state.
Yes, and you have to do it with your eyes open because again,
Yep.
there's ways you can see with your eyes closed light, and that is another layer. We all have to also be able to close our eyes and see light as well.
Hmm.
It should be dark. Like, I
Yep.
mean, it's not that it shouldn't be, but basically, there's three states, and now they call them closed eye visuals in science. They're called closed eye visuals, right? So science has a term
Yep.
for this. You need get closed eyes visuals. You need to be seeing things. You need to be seeing light and movement and energy. It means your third eye is awake. It means
Hmm.
you're connected with angels. It means you're connected with your imagination. It means you're connected with the
I
unlimited
think,
creative power.
it would be interesting for those of you watching this next when you go to bed tonight, you turn off the light and you close your eyes and you just relax, but you look at your eyelids, what you might be able to see. Because there's like there can be shadowy movement. That's light because you're in pitch black. So the fact that you can see anything at all means that you're seeing some light. So there can be like shadowy movements. There can be like a little flash. There can be, if you're really lucky, then you start to see some colors. You start to see some shapes and patterns. I find that sun gazing helps with this. So if you're not familiar with sun gazing, this is something that you would do either first thing in the morning at sunrise or you do it at sunset. You're not doing this when the sun is high on the horizon because you will hurt your eyes. But if your sunset's the gentler one, it's definitely a lot easier to do it at sunset. But about if you stick your thumb up and you look and you cover the sun with your thumb. If you can place another thumb underneath and then it's the horizon, then that's a really gentle zone and that's about 10 minutes. A thumb width is 10 minutes of movement for the sun. So about 10 or 15 minutes to go is a really, really good time to sun gaze. And you'd start with your eyes closed because your eyes won't be used to this. So it's nice to go really easy on the eyes. You don't want to damage your eyes. Close your eyes and just like move your head back and forth, and you're going to get so many benefits from the broad spectrum that the sun can emit. You're taking it into your body this way in a much more conscious way. And you might even see some geometries forming with your eyes closed, the patterns that are coming just from the rays of the sun. And then once you feel comfortable, you can kind of open your eyes and look, but you can continue moving. So you're not staring directly at the sun because it people can get to that point where they've gazed long enough that they've built up, um, I guess it's a strength. I'm not really sure, but you can do it without damaging your eyes. Even anecdotally, I've heard people say that they've healed their eyes by doing this, but they've gone very slowly and obviously taken the precautions. So yeah, don't go jumping into it, gazing straight at it, but move your eyes back and forth and up and down, side to side, circles, both directions. And this will help to bring in all these different frequencies. And it also comes to the third eye and it comes to your whole body as well. But you can really feel it buzzing like in and around your head. And I find personally it runs down the spine and I get very, very grounded. I get very connected to the earth with my feet, which is something that I find is an issue for many people is we're not grounded and we're not feeling our feet and we're not pulling earth energy up into our body. We kind of forget about our legs completely. We live from here up. We don't live in the rest of our body. So I find that the sun gazing can help to get us in touch with our whole body, and it also charges all of our cells. It brings that a stronger electromagnetism to our being. And remember, we are electromagnetic beings.
Yes, and everyone who's watching this right now, you are being initiated to be able to see light open. If you're in this interview this long, you are this is your path has begun to see this, and you just keep your eyes open, and you're gonna see it. And there is another higher, even more wild nature to this, where rather than seeing a symbol, you're literally seeing an entire being. And this is what happened in the Transfiguration in the Bible. And this also happens in the far, far east. It's called another form of darshan. It's like where a saint or someone who's passed away, or they're in another dimension. They're not living here in a body anymore, and you're seeing them fully as though they're alive in a body. You can touch them, you can get food from them, you can interact with them, but they're not here on earth. It's like when people say, "Oh, I saw Jesus." We talked about this a little bit in the plasma conversation with Daniel Giamario's uh, interview. So for those of you who are watching this and hearing the subject and you're interested in knowing about the era of the gods and when they were amongst us and how people see them in these days and age, which is linked to the same phenomena of the light language. It's connected because you're seeing them in their light bodies. That's how they're appearing, even though they're not here with their body, eating and drinking and eliminating, and but they're here in full presence and consciousness and physical form too, because they're you've raised yourself to a vibration where you're not operating in the typical space-time continuum, and things are happening through plasma that are less common in this yuga or this day and age, this time frame that we're in. We're in a higher density era that we're coming out of now, which is
Mhm.
about the revolutionary destiny of our generation to harness these codes, to use and wield light, and to see God with our eyes open, to recognize that beyond the religious brainwashing of the global elites who want to use religions as these hooks to drag us through the dirt and to force us on each other and away from each other and into discord rather than unity, and into the field of, yeah, you can see Buddha could literally come to you right now. Mother Mary could come to you right now if you're a Catholic. If you love Shiva and you're Indian, Shiva could come to you. Uh, King David can show up to a Jew if he wants. God comes to you how you want to see God. And this is a very important part about realizing when you're really opening yourself up to the most powerful, higher forces of the universe. There's an important question to ask: is how do I want to see you? So as you're literally asking to see light and to see the beautiful forms, and it is okay to ask to see God in a beautiful way and to know the more beautiful sides. That is also drawing that flow towards you in preparing you. So
Well, I'd love to jump in. I've created well, not. I was part of a creation of a healing modality called fractaline healing. This was something that I was apparently working on with a team of beings before incarnating in this lifetime. It was gifted to me to share, and then it's been a profound tool for my healing and awakening journey. So we have five different levels, but the first level I was planning on offering at a discount with this summit, and I feel like this is a really good time to share what it is
yeah,
because it is a meditation where you actually stay grounded in your body because I believe it's extremely important that whenever we are working with high frequency energies and receiving downloads or healings or things like that, we have to be present in the body. So the first part of the meditation is getting very grounded and present, and then we move energetically, we expand ourselves. So we've been talking a lot about expansion today. So in this fractal line healing process, you learn how to expand and you enter with your expanded consciousness, you enter into a very specific location in time and space, which is a fractal grid pattern. You enter into this grid and your chakras align, your etheric matrix align instantaneously. And just for people who may not know, if you go see an energy healer, it's 20 minutes to align your chakras. It's 20 minutes to align your physical body to your etheric matrix. That's just how long it takes. So by entering fractal line healing, you're getting these alignments as a byproduct, like, and they're instantaneous. Once you're in this space, it's highly, highly sacred. It's highly protected. And what I've noticed is you can work with whoever you want to work with as long as they are beings of the light. So if you align with Yeshua, if you align with Shiva, if you align with Mother Mary, if you align with the Buddha, if you align it, whoever it is, or all of them, they are available to you within this space and you can feel their energy. You can converse with them. You can develop a stronger relationship with them because the space is so high vibratory. Like you have to level yourself up. And the trouble when we're talking about these ascended masters and other beings of the light who are in spirit, they're resonating at a higher frequency and we're resonating down here because we're in a physical body and a lot of the times we're living unconsciously and everything. So we go into this fractal line healing space and we're bumped up so that the gap between where they are and where we typically reside as a human closes and now we can communicate more easily. So all of that is included in this level 1 where we talk about how to do that. We give you the tools how to do that and you can practice it. And there's even like being able to develop stronger connection with your higher self. I do ancestral work in there. I do Akashic record work in there. I do shadow work in there. I heal other people in there. Like this is the space where I go to for like 90% of my spiritual activities. And there's multiple levels, but this is level 1. And I literally do, if I go into fractal line healing, 9 times out of 10, I'm just going into level 1. The other levels are useful and they have their place and their own specific purpose. But level 1 is amazing on its own. So I wanted to offer that to this audience at a discount. We're giving 25% off. So hopefully that will help raise some vibration and increase consciousness. And yeah, it's a beautiful and it's a fun space.
You guys, you better get it. We're going to have a link to this 25% off in the speaker page by her bio. So make sure to please check that out and check out her books, her decks, meditate on the light codes, tune yourself, tune your soul's desires, have that desiring eyes. The final thought here is when you have that feeling where you're trying to, yes, light codes, oracle cards. It's also on your website, which is, can you plug the name of your website?
Yeah, lightcodesbylara.com. So we
That's
have,
going to have a link in the speaker page, everyone.
so this is the first book. And then this was the second book that came out in 2020. And then last year we released volume 2 of the first book. So this is the Little Book of Light Codes, volume 2, Ascension Codes. And
Wow.
this is really, really next level stuff. I do not recommend starting with this book. This would be like jumping into university when you haven't taken kindergarten with light codes. So this book first. Um, this book anytime you like. You could start with this book. If this book really calls to you, then you can start there. But generally speaking, if you're relatively new to energy work and spirituality and things like that, then start with volume one. If you've been walking the path and you then you already know whether or not volume two is appropriate. So, but did you want me to channel?
Yeah, would you like to give us an experience of what it's like to speak the light language? And
Yes. Do you have a topic?
well, there's a few that come to mind immediately. One is, first of all, I want to ask what the topic in regards to, and then I thought of several topics immediately. Topic of love, topic of the revolutionary destiny of our generation.
Mm,
Um, yeah.
okay. Revolutionary destiny of our generation. Whew, that's a big topic.
Is that
Oh,
something you channel? And then are you gonna
okay.
receive the codes right now?
Yeah, yeah, we'll channel.
Okay.
And so we are going to be speaking in universal light language, which, by the way, is what the books are all. They are all universal light language as well, or light codes, universal light codes. Um, that means more specifically this universe. Um, yeah, that's all we need to talk about. Okay. The destiny of our generation. Ya khana de lai shikamata no upi poktakame ishiano kia tala etakine sakyono. Si otakame e no kaposhiana tia sao. So we're going to offer some translation in a universal mm, a universal voice is what I'm hearing. So it isn't specifically from one person or being. Think of it as the collective. Okay. Yeshia Takamatakaman, I see it patat, the unity consciousness of this universe. Pachumoshia Danakabane Kapatana. So this planet is, as you know all too well, on a very um bumpy trajectory because of its location in time and space, entering into the photon belt and being bombarded with more light particles now, more than it has been for the last 12,000 years. This means that all these dark, lower vibrational shadow energies must come to the surface, not only on a global scale, but it's actually bigger than that. It's bigger than that and it's smaller than that. It's inclusive of the entire solar system. It's inclusive of all the stars around our own solar system. All of these stars and planets, comets and asteroids and other celestial bodies are receiving the same energy and of the photon belt and are needing to process and release the lower vibratory energies. We see it on a very personal level as well. So everyone you see right now is processing to varying levels of degrees and success, if you want to say that, processing the concept of operating from fear, and every action coming from a place of needing to survive, which isn't necessary. It isn't necessary to be living from this space, but it's something that every person has to come to terms with. That's why you're seeing so much anger, because everyone's in a survival mode. Until people are able to transcend the fact that they don't need to be in a survival mode, that they are survival, they are love, they are light, they are eternity. There's nothing to survive. There's only to experience. So we want to just let that energy and concept settle in your body. To hopefully bring more awareness to the ways in which we are each individually acting out from a mode of survival, which is fear-based. And you can say yes, but there's many reasons why. There's reasons why I should be in fear. There's I see it every day, or I hear about it on the news. And that's all a level of truth. But it isn't the only truth, and it isn't the only perspective. And you are a multidimensional fractal being that lives on in eternity. So what could you possibly be afraid of? Your love lives on in eternity. So feel, if you can, we invite you to feel the peace that comes from knowing that you are an eternal being. We're going to offer now a healing in that eternal being connection. Let's take a nice deep breath. Let it all out. Let out any of the tension that might have built up there. Pani say to me, Yono Hataya soki betana si chigar hara mia kapatana itana kupana hara sa.
Saw, saw, saw.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was so beautiful. I think I'm ready to talk.
So light language can be expressed as that universal language. So no matter where you've experienced lifetimes or the alignments that you've made with different belief systems. This language is for everybody, no matter what. And that's why we've done the books in the universal light language so that it can cross all the different barriers and work directly with your eternal heart essence. Light language can and light codes can also be expressed in different dialects. So we mentioned earlier with the I think it was the biogeometry signatures. Is that correct? The name of the book there? That
Signatures.
they looked like they were Arcturian. They felt Arcturian to me.
What does that mean?
Um, the Arcturian is Arcturus, right? So it's a star system, and um, you can go a lot of places with that. I don't know. People have their different beliefs, but every star has an energetic signature. Every planet has an energetic signature. Every solar system has an energetic signature. Every galaxy has an energetic signature. Every person has an energetic signature. So everything has a specific energetic signature, and that's how channeling works. So I have the ability to tune into energetic signatures and then be the conduit for that energy to come through. So I can speak Arcturian, the energy that comes from Arcturus. And remember how we were saying earlier that everything's a fractal. So that means like this is where multidimensionality comes from. There's many, 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 many layers. So if we talk about Arcturus, there's dimensions within Arcturus, there's realms within Arcturus, there's all these different frequencies, even though they're all coming from a specific energetic signature. So the energetic signature as a whole has a frequency, and then within that signature are different levels. And so we can channel everything.
Mhm.
So the Pleiades have an energetic signature. Centaurus has an energetic signature. Sirius has an energetic signature. Every star system, every comet, like I said.
But that
So,
signature, this the Pleiadian one. This was supposedly this one here. Some physicist said that the Americans had contact with the Pleiadians. By the way, I know very little about like the anthropological differences between galactic natives, but I've heard and I know general ideas. I've heard like Arcadia and the Archons are linked, and there's like ancient histories or something. I don't really know, but
Anunnaki.
that's different.
Well, the
Um,
Anunnaki are said to have been the ones who created humanity, and that's how we got the extra chromosome.
yeah,
This,
I was gonna ask at some point in all this if you were negative blood type because they say that I don't know if you know or not, but they say that
I don't think so.
because negative blood types are like supposedly more supernatural phenomena happens around them. They're more able to. I remember when I saw light, when I saw my own signature of light signature, I was literally looking at my wife who's negative blood type. I was staring at her and she was in this deep trance, but I was also in a deep trance with my eyes open. And then it literally was like boop, 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 boop. And I was like, what the heck is this? It was like, but it was a zzz, like burning laser light that created some shapes and which I immediately the same as you. I was like, fucking paper right now. I need to write this down immediately. Like, I don't know what this is, but it's something. And and there was two shapes, and I eventually told it. And right when it came, it was like part of the shape was like a pointing nature. It had like a pointing shape to it, and it like pointed her, and she like a place on her head, and she literally went ah.
Hmm.
Came out of her trance. It was like this thing that appeared. It was a light that was like, zzz, 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 and it like pointed right here, and I was literally going, "The heck am I seeing?" And then she suddenly went, ow, like right where it was pointing. I was like, what was that? Like, what was that? What the actual H was that? Like, that was so
Yeah.
crazy. I remember being like, I've never seen anything in my life to that point or that degree where I was literally like, this is a laser light projection coming out of the quantum matrix, and then this happens with my wife, and I'm like, giddy hey.
Oh, I mean, it's wild the experiences that we can have, and I mean, yeah, like you hear amazing stories from people. I've experienced many. One something that I get from time to time, which is really cool, is I'll be asleep and then the energy will wake me up and eyes open or closed, it doesn't matter. I can see like symbols, codes, numbers, kind of like the Matrix, just from like this, just go on. And then there'd be like a flash. It'll be like a person's face or like some other shape. But it's so fast that you can't remember what it is, but it's just like download. And I really enjoy those. They don't happen very often, but I'm always excited when they do.
I feel that after a certain point, it becomes purifying universal energy, and
Mm,
sort of like the individual, as we were talking about, going back to the very beginning of the subject of the capital E and lowercase e ego, and it's sort of like the ego drops away, and it's sort of like everyone's life is you are on a screen in this universal ocean of seeing, and so there's a wisdom for sure to what you see. Like it's not that there's no meaning to it. There's a meaning
yeah.
to it. There's a wisdom behind it, and you're being asked to see it too. Like
Yeah.
I think it's a
Oh,
conversation.
you got woken up for it. Yeah, it's like sometimes I feel like it's a download, sometimes I feel like it's a healing, sometimes it feels like both. Sometimes it feels like a major upgrade. I just call them upgrades anyway, because whether it's a healing or or a leveling up of some kind, it's all going up.
I
We're all
consider
going
it an
up.
upgrade too. And same thing with this is why you're growing up and you pass on to your life, and then so to say, get a next life or go to the new life. And it's all just this upward trajectory. I agree with that, that there's just an ultimate growth, like even through lifetimes where it's like you're constantly growing up and you're remembering your childhood to basically become a more powerful adult. And then,
Yeah.
yeah, and then you eventually, when you're doing it right, like you see these older people where they're at the oldest of their body, but their mind's the sharpest that it's ever been. And that's the example of how you continue to grow yourself. And it is truly a lifelong journey. I also believe, by the way, side note, for everyone who's watching this, yes, it might sound crazy. If you're still here, first of all, and you've watched all of this, it's because A, you either can see the light, or B, you really are going to. And it's like inevitable. And
Yeah.
yeah, and in that on that note, that yes, when there's something called like supernatural abilities, and this is like you're going into a realm of abilities, but it's really not you. You're in a communication. So when you're in the ability stage and you're seeing, right? But in the Far East, there are these categories for abilities, and some are called siddhis, and some are called yogas. And so yogas are like your abilities over lifetimes. It means they're harder to win. Siddhis are abilities you gain life to life, and there's like certain abilities you can make yourself stronger or whatever. There's a whole list of them. There's a whole science. Go check it out. I'm not here to explain all that right now. I'm just trying to say some people do come in with something. And if you feel like you were born with a gift, you were born with something, or it's something that's natural to you, as you've said a few times, like you didn't realize like it's so difficult for other people, and it's something that I had resonated in a different way when I was growing up, and I was so happy, and people were like, "You're so happy. Can anyone ever really be that happy?" Like people didn't believe in my happiness, and then I literally learned that there's an ability. It's the ability of coming back happy in your next life and making yourself happy in all your lifetimes. And there's special like techniques and literal like yogas, and I'm like, oh my god, is that what is? And that's literally triggering in other people their blocks of not being able to. But it's not about one person having something that another person doesn't, because ultimately what we're all doing is we're in a relationship with our higher self to gain and learn and stretch. And so regardless of if you came in and you have something, you still have a learning curve you have to go through every life, no matter how many abilities you come in with. And to awaken some people are part of the revolutionary destiny of our generation. Some people are going to be awakened. Some of you might be literally seeing dazzling lights during this talk I have. I saw at least one or two of real sparkles showing up where I'm like, whoa, 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 high. Energy is very high right now. And remember to ground down. Remember to hold your black rocks and decharge the extra high divine positive energy as well. That's part of the symptom is being able to use high divine energy. You decharge it out, you start to stretch that muscle to pull more in. And so, yes,
Expansion and compression, both.
exactly.
We need to be able to do both.
Yes. And for all of you who are here, I encourage you to have that always be looking like something is going to happen. You know, there's that feeling of someone coming around the corner, or you have a friend who's coming over and you can't stop looking at the door. You're like, it's an anticipatory look. Okay, this goes back to the subject we were talking about earlier. It's darshan. It's literally the look of like, where are you? You're here. You're right behind there. Or you're right behind there. And you're like, I know you're in here. That that starts pulling in energy. Literally, there's three netra in Sanskrit, it's called the three eyes. And really what that is your brain manifesting the sight that you're wanting to see through the spiritual functions. Ultimately, you're pulling through higher dimensions, through what you're anticipating, what you're asking for, seeing what you're wanting to see, and it starts to pull through your eyes. So there's a muscle here that I'm trying to remind everyone about and activate in the audience right now, which is the muscle of looking to see something. And obviously, anyone who goes looking is going to see something. And this is why they say curiosity killed the cat, right? Satisfaction brought him back. But this is the realm of you asking um, to see, looking to also see. It's like taking. It's like saying, I'm not just asking for it, I'm reaching for it. So it's ask for it, reach for it. And that reach is a reach through the eyes. It's literally like I'm reaching to see this. And it's a stretch that's supernatural pushing that also starts to press against the creation as we were pulsing on the glass earlier and making these pulses. That starts to become a Morse code to Mother Divine. And for all of you who are ready to rise up in your mastery, please want to see light or still here. You know why you're here. You need to go take this course. You need to help yourself to see light and um, open up your your inner eye, open up your hearts, remember the light within, constantly allow that. That's another incredible technique is always there's a flame within us all burning too, and when those connect with the outer cosmic energy, then the doorway to light is open. It's like the light of the fire coming through your eyes to the fire of your soul, also observing it back. So yes, you guys take care. Make sure you get your free gift. And Laura, thank you so much for your incredible.
I do have a free gift also. So I have two things. So the first thing was with Fractaline Healing
We're getting
offering the discount, and then I'm also going to offer the download for this book. This is going to be the free gift, not the it's just the digital download though. And this is our workbook for the Little Book of Light Codes. So
awesome.
this is a really, really beautiful book that has all of the codes in it and then some different
Wow.
like journal prompts and suggestions for just deepening your experience. Lots of like topics and stuff to choose from there. And yeah, so there's that symbol that we showed you earlier.
Breaking the delusions of the mind. I felt
So
it. This was such
we're
a powerful conversation. I felt
We're
it.
going to offer this as a digital download for free. That's the gift. And then please check out Fractaline Healing if you want to really take, even if you have taken lots of energy healing courses before, this is different and it is a meditation. And it's amazing. So I really, really highly recommend checking that out.
Yes, you guys, and thank you again. And for all of you here who stuck this out, wow, we're going to be seeing each other. I have no doubt that there is a connection to be made with anyone who's listening in this moment. There's an amazing revolutionary destiny in your soul, and your soul, of course, Laura, for everything you're doing, and Yes, remember for everyone, don't worry, be happy, do your best, and let the one do the rest.
Massive blessings. Thank you so much for having me.